I'm Eric Wolf, and my experience in business peer groups has changed my life, especially my membership in Vistage, one of the world's largest CEO advisory groups. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a Vistage speaker on the power of marketing. This podcast is dedicated to the people who make those experiences possible, the peer group chairs. Every episode, I interview a Vistage chair who has dedicated their time to helping entrepreneurs like me succeed. Welcome to Chairwaves. My guest today is Sarah Castle. Sarah is joining us from one of my most favoritist places in the world, Charleston, South Carolina. I love Charleston.
It is beautiful. We moved here to have a leisurely life, and it just has that vibe.
How's that working out for you?
Well, not as leisurely as I originally hoped, but every year is becoming closer to what I dreamed when I moved here.
Fair enough. I'm a big fan. I used to live in Atlanta, and so Charleston was like that 5-hour kind of getaway place. You get in the car and you can be there, and it's the food is great. It's a beautiful town, an old town.
Yes, it's great for a long weekend, and depending on when you come, basically March through November, there are awesome festivals in Charleston. So there's always some kind of cultural event, music, some kind of show, so you can eat and see things.
so you can eat and be entertained.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. We like that. Welcome, Sarah. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. I would love to hear. You've got a lot of things in your background. You've got more than 2 decades in a couple of different industries, different types of roles. What was your kind of career trajectory like before Vistage?
It was all about Amazon, honestly. So I worked at Amazon for 15 years, and then I became a college professor, and then Vistage showed up. But the majority of my working life was at Amazon from 2007 to 2022. So through a massive growth period for the company.
That was a heck of an Amazon time in those years.
Right. I started and it was mostly media. And then, okay. I mean, now you likely know all the categories of business and technology that Amazon has, but it was a really interesting place to grow up professionally.
Was Amazon like sort of your first job, or did you have other stops before?
I worked for General Electric before Amazon.
Okay.
And General Electric was a great training ground. Like, it had pumped out so many amazing leaders. And what I was really interested in at that time is I wanted to go work somewhere innovative, where technology was more of a focus. And I was lucky to have an old boss who pulled me in to Amazon. And then my experience in Amazon, and this might be true for other people in other large companies, is I just got pulled into the next job. I thought maybe I'd stay there 2 years. And in the blink of an eye, 15 years passed. But that's because I got to work on cool stuff. And then became an executive there eventually. Like, I grew into that role.
So what was your Amazon journey like? Where you said you started in media?
Yeah, so I started in human resources as a function. That's what I studied in graduate school. I'm really interested in people and work and organizational design. So I always had that pull. But I got pretty good at working with subsidiary businesses at Amazon, so startups that they had acquired that then they were figuring out how to integrate, or I helped start up new groups at Amazon. So I started to build this startup-y founder kind of collection of experiences, but in the safety of Amazon. And so I worked in mergers and acquisitions.
You were an entrepreneur.
What?
An entrepreneur.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so I got to work in mergers and acquisitions, and then from there I moved from the HR side of the house into business roles, and then started to go deeper and deeper into business roles. But it was all kind of catapulted by working in M&A. So I worked in the Alexa voice part of Amazon's business. So if anyone has Echo products, those spaces, I was in the very, very early team working in that before, when it was a confidential project, before it ever launched. And I spent 6 years in that group building and launching new things in that product set, mostly in either software teams or a speech science team. So I became technical enough to get around, but I was usually like the one kind of building and leading teams and launching things, and then working on like whatever was the next new venture that we were going after in that space.
You were the people person on the tech team.
Yeah, and could bring people together to really execute. So I had people like technical program managers, user experience designers, lots of folks who were able to really move projects forward and deliver, working with engineers and scientists.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
Well, was Alexa the coolest thing that you worked on while you were there? What was the best project?
My favorite work was working in corporate development and M&A, and that's because in that function you get a view of all of the build versus buy decisions that Amazon is making or considering. And so from a learning perspective, it is so cool because you get to see across all these different business divisions, and you get way sharper on strategy because you're hearing all these conversations.
I'm going to kind of jump ahead a little bit. Yeah. We'll come back.
Okay.
But I have to ask, so seeing that level of decision making at Amazon, I'm sure that the members of your CE group are dealing with their own versions of build versus buy.
Yeah.
How do you sit down and have those conversations with a Vistage member?
It's interesting. So I'm not quite a year in to being a Vistage chair, and there's a line that I feel like I always am walking, which is how do I ask great questions so that the member can, start to discover on their own. So that's the kind of coaching part of it. And then how do I offer up some of the things that I've seen or heard or experienced that will actually be relevant without talking about Amazon all the time?
Right.
Right. So I try to share stories and give examples, but I am definitely, since I spent so much time in that company, I'm definitely mindful of not like overusing that, if that makes sense.
Well, there was a joke about in one of the presidential primary debates, somebody made this great joke about Rudy Giuliani, where every sentence was a noun, a verb, and 9/11. And so you're trying not to do that with Amazon. But Amazon's a big deal, right? I mean,
yes.
This is one of the most successful companies now in the history of the planet.
Sure. And though it has to be relatable, right? Like something that operates at Amazon scale, it's like, how do you bring that down to usefulness for a member who's operating a $10 million business, not a billion dollar business? But there are so many lessons to gain from companies that have figured out all the rhythms of their business.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the businesses in your Vistage group are probably smaller than Amazon's rounding error on their financial statements, and that's it is a whole new world.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about that.
And I do lean on my experience working with startups. So whether it was either integrating them after Amazon acquired them, or I even led a technical startup in my last role at Amazon, there are pockets that are totally relatable. And so it's like as a chair, I think that's what we're looking for. We're trying to help people connect the dots and or give them pieces so they can put their own puzzle together. And so to me, it's like, okay, I bring stories, I bring questions. When do I use what?
What made you then decide to, of all the things that you could have done post Amazon,
Yeah.
what was calling you about academia?
I love teaching. Just love it. I always knew I did, and I taught some internal programs at Amazon, and I'm pretty goal oriented. You might find this like in other Vistage members or chairs, and so I had a goal to teach in college or high school, and I got the opportunity to become an adjunct at the College of Charleston teaching management and leadership, and that was kind of my test to see. So I did that while still working.
Gotcha.
And then I got the opportunity to teach entrepreneurship, which just is such a fun topic. Like, how cool to teach college students how to come up with new product and services ideas, go from ideation to prototype, learn how to pitch. Like, it's really fun. So when I got that chance to teach full time, I just had that inner knowing. I don't know if you've experienced, like, your whole body is a yes. It's kind of like You're relaxed, your shoulders are back, like you can just feel it. And I was like, oh, I'm a yes for this. So I said yes to teaching, and then I knew I'd figure out the rest, and I ended up starting my own business also.
I also love teaching, and one of the coolest experience I ever had was being an adjunct professor at Metro State here in Denver. I did that only one semester so far, but I'm determined to go back.
It gets much easier after you've done it 3 times.
Tell me about the business that you started and how that came about.
Yeah. I intended to have mostly a consulting business where I would focus on, I'll call it transformation consulting. So these are things like getting really clear on your vision, mission, right people, right roles, the stuff that when you're in a large company as a leader, you likely come into and you do it every time. Right? It's kind of like your rinse and repeat, you know to do it. But a lot of younger companies or smaller companies don't necessarily know that rhythm, or maybe they're learning it through something like EOS. And so that's what I thought was going to be my bread and butter, because I'm really passionate about that and had good experience in it. I also became a leadership coach because I had my own coach for many years. The tools, I was sharing tools with people I was mentoring. And so I thought, oh, maybe I'll just like take this more seriously and get certified. And so what ended up happening is what I thought was going to be a consulting business became a coaching business. More people just came and asked me to coach them. And so now it's probably 90% coaching, 10% consulting, and that's how it evolved. But I did that because I love helping people grow either their businesses or organizations or personally, and it's all fully integrated. So when Vistage came, Vistage looks for people who have business background and some coaching background, and so I was lucky to just have those pieces already put together.
Before going down the road with Vistage in the chair capacity, had you ever been part of a peer group?
Yes, in Amazon. There is there are different efforts that happen there within a company, but it's interesting in the peer advisory element that comes with Vistage. In a large company, you can get that if you have people across divisions. And so I had that experience, right. And that actually was quite game changing for me as a leader. So when Vistage came and shared with me more about the model, I could relate to it and see how effective it was, even in my own experience, but a different setting.
What made you decide to be a Vistage chair? How did that come about?
They found me via LinkedIn. And so I had a few conversations with folks about it, and the opportunity came because they saw a chance to grow in the Charleston market. The timing wasn't quite right for me. And so, I don't know, maybe 6 months after we first started talking, I said maybe a year from now, I'll do that. A chair was retiring.
Okay.
And so they came and said, would you be interested in interviewing for this transition chair role? And it was one of those same kind of knowings. It was like, oh, yes, yes, I will do that. The timing isn't right,
Right.
but you can work with timing. And so I got to meet with several of the members, and I just had such a positive impression, good conversation with them. I felt like I had something to offer them. They had a ton to offer me. And they offered me the role.
What was the competitive landscape like there? Were you how many other candidates were there?
There was one other that I know of who was one of the members in the group who was thinking about transitioning into a more like winding down CEO experience and doing a chair, just as many chairs I think do over time, right? They come back and it's part of your give back.
How did that work out with the people in the group? Having with how did they go about choosing you over the person that was already there?
I don't know a lot of the behind the scenes details.
Is that person still in the group?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it
That's
is pretty
kind
amazing.
of a cool testament to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And they also were looking for a profile that was different than the previous chair. So the previous chair came from more of a manufacturing background, was male, probably, I'm going to say 70. So they actually were looking for how do we shake it up in our group. The group had been alive for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's some elements of that too, like just bringing in more new, freshened it up. And then my collection of experience is, different than many of the members.
What was it like for you taking over? Because in 11 years, and I'm going to guess that there are several members of the group that had been there quite a while,
Yes.
and the group probably had a pretty well-defined cadence and culture and all of those things, and now you're the new girl at school.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that?
A bit like I would in business. I don't know if you've ever read one of those like 90-day manager books where it's how do you step into a new role. So I tried to respect what came before me. And we had conversations even in the first monthly meeting that I led, which was, what do you want to stop, start, and continue? And they invited me to do things differently. And so I did little things differently each month, kind of was iterating, but I didn't come and make big changes. I really wanted to get to know them and the group. And what the person before me had built was so strong. And so I was just looking for where could I add more value. And I was lucky they invited me to change things. And now I've gotten pretty good feedback. So I do one-on-ones a little bit differently, like the way we kind of manage our monthly meetings. There's some things that are similar, but maybe how I lay it out is different. So I think about it as an iterative process.
Sure.
But in the beginning, my first meeting, I probably did it really similar to the chair before me.
How what are the things that went smoothly, and what are the things that went sort of less smooth than you had kind of hoped or thought when you took over?
Some of it is about logistics, honestly. So my ideal start would have been a July start time, but the previous chair was retiring in January. And so for me, the biggest part was just it was the time commitment, like making sure to truly show up for all the one-on-ones, to plan the meeting, the monthly meeting. Those parts actually were quite hard because I was bringing Vistage into a world where I already had a ton of commitments, was teaching
Right.
full time, had my own clients for the other part of my business. And so that I mean, on the outside looking in, maybe it looked smooth. But I was like that duck whose feet were like going crazy under the surface, just trying to keep it going.
What have you learned as or a better way to ask it? What is your group? So you've been at it for almost a year now.
Yeah.
What has your group taught you?
So much. Being a Vistage chair is so cool because I get this amazing vantage point where I can see inside 15 businesses. And it's so open, right? Like the members trust me, so I know quite a lot about their businesses, their lives, their families, all these pieces. And so to learn about the depths of a decorative lighting business, paving or bridge construction business, property management business, an accounting firm, just to be able to be exposed to that is so uniquely special and interesting. So for me, I'm learning all the time.
Was you came from two worlds that in academics and enterprise America.
Yeah.
Those are environments where typically we have sort of arm's length types of relationships with people, and you don't, it's like, hey, I'm your manager. There are things that you don't tell me.
Yeah.
I'm your professor. There are things that you don't tell me. But now being in an environment where it's like, no, we all need to be open and vulnerable.
Yeah.
What kind of an adjustment was that for you? Just, culturally from the way that you sort of came up in work?
It didn't feel like an adjustment for me, and it's likely because I mentioned before I had been part of this like program and peer advisory group in Amazon. Also, since I've left, I go back and I'm a coach and a facilitator for that. And it looks really similar to Vistage. And then I also am a leadership coach. And so I focus on, it's very career forward or business forward, but on, say, career, business, personal, and health. Like we talk about all those things. And so in Vistage, I try to like set up the trust for all of those topics to be applicable. And I think I probably do it more so than the chair before me. So that didn't feel like an adjustment. Am I pressing people in different parts of their life, maybe more than before? I think yes. Like we have a one-on-one prep sheet where I send questions. It gets people thinking. It's not like we go box to box, but it's like, how do you prepare so we can get the most out of this? And I always have personal questions, right? Like who's a person you appreciate, who supported you the most, and do you need to appreciate them this month? Like I'll ask questions around how are you taking care of yourself? And I think many other chairs do this too. But I really try to bring that integrated approach because for me as a leader, man, I wouldn't show up great if things across the other parts of my life weren't also great. And so I want the members I work with to be aiming for best in all aspects of their life.
Have you had the opportunity to onboard many new members since you started?
Just a few. It's something I could do better, for sure. I have someone who started this month, and I am working on how do I do this better. So I've gotten some best practices from other chairs, which is helpful. Yeah.
How do you decide when you're sitting across the table from somebody?
Yeah.
And I imagine you're having lunch, you're having coffee, something like that, and you've got somebody who's potentially interested in being a part of your group. What's your process for deciding if it's a good fit?
So this is a really good question. And I lean more on my business experience here than a Vistage experience. So I've probably interviewed, hundreds of people over the last 20 years. But part of it, what I'm really looking at is this person going to add a lot to our group? It's like we have this collection of people, collection of skills, collection of industries. How do I make sure that this person is going to come and be will they be engaged? Will they add to our discussions, challenge the group? Right? Will they actually show up? And so those are some of the things I'm trying to assess through our conversation. And then I've also had conversations with my existing members around what do we need and want in this group? It's like your leadership team, right? Like you build for where you have gaps so that you can have like a fully rounded group. And so I'm taking that into account too when I'm reaching out to people or even engaging with folks who might be interested about like, do they have some of the even basics? Like there's certain industries we want to have covered or, certain experience that's important for our group.
You're almost a year in, so in this your first year of doing this, what's the best part of being a chair? What makes you wake when you open your eyes in the morning and you're laying in bed? What's that thing that brings a smile to your face?
It's the conversations, whether it's one-on-one or in the group, and it's not just the conversation. It's when either we have a conversation together or it's in a larger setting, and then someone says, "You know how we were talking about, or so and so said this," and it's that like, oh, it landed. Something landed. That's the best part.
Sarah, thank you so much for being an awesome guest today. I'm honored to have now met the inventor of Alexa.
Oh, no, don't put that on LinkedIn.
No, I'm kidding. No. But if folks have questions about whether it's about the Vistage Group, whether it's about navigating an environment like Amazon, what's the best way that folks can get in touch with you?
Sarah.castle@vistagechair.com is going to be the best. I also have a website if people are interested in something other than Vistage that just talks a little bit more about my values and styles and approach, and that's castlecoaching.com.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's been wonderful having you as guest.
Thanks, Eric. See ya.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairwaves. You can subscribe to our feed using Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your platform of choice. You can also visit chairwaves.com for more information. Chairwaves is hosted and produced by me, Eric Wolf, and to connect with me, you can visit my website at ewolf.live. That's EWOLF.live. And a disclaimer, while I love Vistage and CEO peer groups, this podcast is not owned by or affiliated with Vistage or any other peer organization. Thanks for listening.